So today we're going to be making a fraction decimal percent foldable and how to change them to each other. We're starting with a regular piece of paper. We're going to fold it in half, hamburger style. Give it a good crease. And then we've got to fold it in thirds and get as close as you can to making that as even as you possibly can. And then we're going to take this top part and cut on those two creases we just made and cut to that first crease. The first section we're going to start with is decimals. Something that will be super helpful for you to review would be the place value for the decimals, and I'm going to write this over top. So if we have 1 decimal, this 1 is in the 1's place value. Here's my decimal, and if we were to read a number with a decimal in it, the decimal, the word that we use for decimal is and. Some people use point. Some people say the decimal. So those are some options that you have there for the decimal. The next number will be in the tenths with the TH place value. After the tenths is the hundredths. After the hundredths is the thousandths. Oops. And then there's the 10,000ths. Hundred thousandths. Millionths. Ten millionths. Hundred millionths. And we could keep going on with that, but when we're out of room and it's kind of unnecessary. The important thing to note is that there is only one's place. Okay, so that's kind of like the center. There's only one 1. The decimal side is a reflection of what happens over here in place value. So on the inside, let's review how to write a decimal to a fraction. So the first step is to read the decimal with the place value. What that means is if I had this number, the 3 is the last number, So I would read that as 3/10. And then I write that as a fraction. Just as I said, 3/10, 3/10. We've written it as a fraction, and if it's possible, to simplify it. 3 and 10 do not have any common factors, so it is already in lowest terms. Take this one. This would be read as 24. The last place value here is in the hundredths. So I would write this as 24 hundredths. This one does have common factors between 24 and 100. If I simplified both 24 and 100 by 4, 24 divided by 4 is 6. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So 24 hundredths, the decimal written as a fraction in lowest terms, would be 6 over 25. Let's do a whole number mixed in there with it. What if I had 5 and 4/10? The 5 is pretty easy to deal with because it's a whole number. So that would be the whole part of my mixed number. This is 4/10, so I write 4/10. 4 and 10 have a common factor of 2. So if I divide 4 by 2, I get 2. If I divide 10 by 2, I get 5. So 5 and 4/10, the decimal written as a fraction in lowest terms, is 5 and 2/5. Last example. This would be read as 100 25. The 5 is in the thousandths place. So this would be initially written as 125 over 1,000. But it's not in lowest terms. I'm going to pause the video here and give you a moment to simplify this to lowest terms. The common factor here is actually 125. 125 divided by 125 is 1. 1,000 divided by 125 is 8. So 125 thousandths as the decimal written in lowest terms as a fraction is 1/8. Good job. Let's move on to decimals to percents, changing decimals to percents. If we had the 3/10 from over here as a decimal, and I wanted to know what percent that represented. It's very, very simple. Percent is always out of 100. So if you have a decimal, to change it into a percent, you multiply by 100. And then next, you put a percent sign. So 0.3 times 100 is equal to 30%. So if I had 0.24, which is 24 hundredths, we found out over here, multiply it by 100, that'll give us 24%. If I had the 5 and 4 tenths, I multiply it by 100 to find the percent, and that will give me 540%. If I had the 125 thousandths, I multiply by 100, and I will have 12.5 or 12 and 5 tenths percent. You could also write it as 12 and 1/2%. So some students have figured out in the past that you could simply move the decimal two places to the right, because that shows multiplying by 100. That's all we have for today. Thanks for listening.